This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
TJ Lang, Ricky Wagner. It's going to be a fun show today. You are listening to the Hindsight 20 podcast. I'm your host, Jerry Mallory. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. We knew it was going to happen. We talked about this last show. This time next week, we were saying there's going to be some changes, going to be some additions to the Lions family. Most of us probably thought it would be on the defensive side of the ball. I know I made some predictions saying as much. However, we knew the offensive line was going to be addressed. At guard, it kind of looked like, they may stand pat, work with what they have. At tackle, you either bring back Riley Reiff or you bring in a replacement because it was going to be a huge hole right there. And man, did the Lions make some moves, particularly toward the offensive side of the ball. We're here to talk about that. As always, I am here every Monday, but it's just not me alone on this podcast network. You have a cast of crew, of characters, if you will, each and every day. Do yourself a favor, subscribe. Detroit Sports Podcast Network is on iTunes. It's on Android. You name it, it'll be there. And I'm a proud member of PrideDetroit.com. They have been killing it, okay? When I say killing it, the content, the viewership, everything is through the roof. And I'm proud just to be a part of what they do. So videos are coming soon. We talked about that combine video. Hey, things happened where I was not physically able to compete in the combine, but that doesn't mean I don't have videos in store. So this upcoming week, a little change of schedule, there will be some videos right there. You'll see my beautiful face on PrideDetroit.com, on YouTube. So you can check me out there. And as always on Twitter, I had some fun on Twitter today. If I have a little bit of time, trolling, if you will, talking trash everywhere from Jeff Moss to a number of salty Seahawks and Packers fans, particularly the Seahawks. It was funny just having a chance to go back and forth with those guys. So I could be found at all those places. But today's show, obviously, we're talking about the free agent signings. We're going to talk about the two big ones first, the impact on the team itself, adding them, the impact on the draft, on the rest of free agency. So you start right off the bat. And I've said this a time or two, and it's not an original thought. It's not a thought that like, hey, man, Jerry, he's coming up with this theory. It's a new football theory. He's going to have his name put on it. No, but I stand by this statement. I've been saying this for about 2 years now, the importance of the right tackle and the left tackle. They're getting closer and closer and closer in value. Years ago, that left tackle was the position, the blind side, right? That was the end all and be all of protection, protecting the quarterback's blind side. And left tackle is still king, okay? If you look at numbers like Russell Okung, all right, 50-something million. Riley Reiff back at left tackle, 50-something million. Matt, I can't even say that without laughing. Matt Khalil with 50-something million. These are second to third. Khalil, in some cases, have even been bottom tier left tackles, and they are all getting paid, all right? Over $10 million each. So left tackle still king, but right tackle is creeping on the come up. Right tackle is becoming more and more important, and it's because teams, the way they address and attack offensives now, these rushers, they come from all over the field. Guys like Von Miller and Khalil Mack, these guys don't care, where they line up. All right, they'll line up from anywhere and they'll be effective. So having that right tackle is so important nowadays. And we addressed it right off the bat, bringing in Ricky Wagner. This was a huge deal. It's one of those moves where you say, man, he was the top guy to get, and the Lions got him. He drew a lot of interest from the Bears, from the Vikings primarily, which you love. You love the fact that you can take a guy away from, not only he helps you, but you're taking a guy away from a team that's going to be one of your bitter rivals. He had a ton of interest. He was by far the number one target in terms of free agents. We got him, man. 5 years in the range of $45 million. And okay, so you look at that number. It's going to be like about $9.5 million a year. And you say, man, that's a lot of money because Before that, the highest paid tackle was like Mitchell Schwartz in the range of $6 million. But oh, how the times have changed. Like I said, man, number one, the market dictates, what guys get, and the importance of the position more and more. And so we may look back on this deal and say, you know what, 9.5 million was pretty good. Here's a few other things to consider. And I like talking about the player you're getting more so than, money, but that is a factor because the money you have, money you spend on guys dictates the money you have for other guys, right? So it's about 9.5 million. There's been some reports showing the way the contract is structured. This first year, only about 5.8 is coming as in terms of a cap hit. So that's pretty good as well. But the cool thing is this. While you're paying him 9.5 million over the next 5 years, you've got your left tackle. Man, Taylor Decker, all I got to say is Matt Khalil's making 50-something million dollars, all right? Taylor Decker will be making approximately $2.5 million next year, the year after that, the year after that, and the year after that, because he's in his second year. He's going to have his third, his fourth year. We'll pick up that fifth year option. I'm not 100% sure how the figure escalates, particularly when the fifth year option is in place. But between your two tackles, you're only spending about $12 million or so. It makes, spending a little bit more on your right tackle more palatable. And I'll guarantee you this, as the offseason rolls out, then your next offseason comes around, it's going to continue, okay? It's going to continue to be a situation where these right tackles are getting paid big money because that's the market. But let's talk about Ricky Wagner, the player. Now, there is a trend. We upgraded our blocking with three guys, Wagner, TJ Lang, who we're about to talk about, even Darren Fells. All of them are good overall. All three of them more so effective at pass blocking, though. I know we've been talking about run blocking and things of that sort. Now, for the most part, they are better at run blocking than what we had. All right. We didn't really have a blocking tight end at all for starters last year. Brandon Pettigrew being lost is something people don't talk about, but it is a factor. Trying to use guys like Tim Wright, tried to. He got hurt early. Matthew Mulligan, all these different players didn't have that facet, but now we do. Some will say Larry Warford's a better run blocker than TJ Lang. I have been of the opinion that Larry Warford is overrated, okay? His rookie year was great. He looked good. He did what he had to do. Since then, I've seen a guy stay the same, not get much better, maybe even regress, and he's always hurt. But, I guess if you're looking at Pro Football Focus and different sites, it may suggest that, his run blocking is better than TJ Lang's. I'm not buying it. And then Rick Wagner, who we're talking about, he's more of a pass blocker than a run blocker, but his run blocking is better than Riley Reif's. His pass blocking is much better than Riley Reif's as well. He was like the 18th rated offensive tackle on Pro Football Focus. So it's a huge upgrade. He's only 27 years old, and so he's a young guy. And as his contract matures, 5 years from now, it's a long time to look. But 2-3 years from now, when it's time to make decisions on Taylor Decker, we'll be better equipped to, maybe the cap has risen, maybe we have decisions to make. But at this point, you're pretty much allocating about $12 million with a very promising bookend situation on the offensive line. When you look at Taylor Decker, who, surprised many people, one of the better tackles, left tackle rookies. Now, I won't say the best because in terms of tackles overall, because Jack Cook, he really lit it up at right tackle. He's one of the best right tackles in the league. But if we're just saying left tackle, and you've got Ronnie Stanley, who was a high pick, and Laramie Tunsil, who played more so right tackle, but he'll move to left. Now, I'm just saying strictly left tackle, he was probably the best guy as a rookie. He's only going to get better. And so this is huge. The fact that you have these two bookends at a reasonable price, one's very young, the other one in his prime, keeping Stafford upright, protecting him, giving him time, giving these receivers time to run their routes. We talked a lot about Marvin Jones and Golden Tate not getting open. Well, a lot of that is attributed to them not having time to get open. We want the deep ball. We want the long routes. Those routes take time to mature. And a lot of, years where maybe we don't give up sacks is because we're passing the ball so quickly, and we're getting rid of things. But what about the fact that you don't let plays mature? What about the fact that you don't allow, you don't allow 7-step dropbacks. And it's still pretty rare in the NFL. But having two guys at that left tackle spot that will be there for the next few years is very comforting. And then we move on to TJ Lang. Now, this was a surprising one. Okay, we knew we needed a tackle. It's like, all right, got to have a tackle. There's no question about it. You're looking at Cornelius Lucas and whoever, Jimmy Shoestring, playing tackle. It wasn't going to happen. Now, my last mock draft, I said, hey, Cam Robinson is my pick until we address the tackle situation. And we'll get into the draft a little bit later. Lang was a surprise because Joe Dahl and Lakin Tomlinson, you figure, okay, between the two of them, they will figure this out. They will have a battle. They will, have a chance to, both of them are young, have a chance to be that right guard, okay? Now, Joe Dahl showed more promise than Lakin Tomlinson, but Lakin Tomlinson played right guard at Duke. That was where he excelled. He had one game last year against the Rams where he started at right tackle, and he looked pretty good. So it's like, we'll give these two guys a shot at guard, and may the best man win. Then all of a sudden you hear reports, Lions interested in TJ Lang. First off, he's going to be expensive. He is, the top guard, really on the market, left. Kevin Zeitler probably rated a little bit higher, but you're looking at Zeitler, I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, whatever. What else is new, right? You got Kevin Z, and Lang pretty much were the two guys that were the class. And Kevin Z's over there with the Browns already. He got a big chunk of change himself. And so TJ Lang came out of nowhere. Then you start to think about it. It's like, well, dude, it does make sense. First and foremost, he's a local guy. 97-1, which, let's just be honest, it's fallen off to say the least. Okay, when you have to hear about, I didn't hear it myself, when you have to hear about them saying, should the Lions trade Stafford and draft Deshaun Watson, they've fallen off. Well, those guys got the leather jacket on. They're playing fines, and they jumped the shark, all right? 97-1. But TJ Lang, to get back to my point, is a guy that calls 97-1, all right? He's a local guy. He loves the Metro Detroit area. From here, played college at EMU. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. Number two, okay, Dahl or Tomlinson, that's fine, but they still are both question marks, all right? That would have been the question mark position on the offensive line. At left tackle, you know what you're getting with Taylor Decker. You have no issues with what he's going to bring. You only expect him to get better. Left guard is probably the question mark now, but, I really like Graham Glasgow. I think he played fine last year, and really not. Now, like, seriously, you have that option. I think Glasgow wins the job, and, it's a no-brainer, but you've got three guys that can compete for that spot. If Glasgow gets hurt or for some reason his play starts to diminish, you've got Graham Glasgow, Lakin Tomlinson, you got Joe Dahl. Center is Travis Swanson, who just had a rebound of a year. He's looking rough those first few years, and it was looking like, hey, Glasgow is brought in. He's going to be the center of the future. Well, Swanson just kind of cemented himself as that guy. And now you've got Lang there, and now you've got Wagner. So it made more sense when you thought about it, because right guard, I just named all those players. Right guard would have been the question mark. You're hoping that Joe Dahl, you're hoping that Lakin Tomlinson, can rebound and live up to their hype, but nothing was guaranteed. You start to talk about money. We still don't really know how much money they have. So you're like, TJ Lang's going to be expensive. They already made one big splash, on the offensive line. They need defenders. Well, I'll say this to you that is worried about the defense. First and foremost, you address areas of need, plain and simple, okay? When you have an opportunity to upgrade a position, you do it. I get it. The defense is worrisome, all right? But number one, in free agency, there has to be mutual interest. We don't know who they've talked to. We got reports, but we don't know, the interest of a guy that even wants to come and visit or not. So, let's say you've got a team in the Lions that maybe they reached out to Logan Ryan. Maybe they reached out to Dante Hightower. Maybe they reached out to Don Terry Poe. Maybe they, reached out to this or that guy, and this or that guy said, well, we'll visit you, but we got a few other teams on our radar. Or, to be honest, we're not probably interested in playing for you. So you got this money. You don't have to spend it, but if you still have holes to fill, and you know that offensive line is a priority, you know the run game improving is a priority, you know protecting Stafford at a higher rate is a priority, by all means, man, upgrade the position, spend the money. You're getting a guy who's a hometown guy, one of the best at his position. Now, he had the hip surgery. People are worried about that. He says he's fine, and the rest he's going to have will actually heal him up. TJ Lang said he has not been healthy in, about 3 years. Well, he'll get a chance to heal up, and he'll be ready by training camp. And so I get it, all right? I'm a little worried about the defense as well. But at the same time, when you have an opportunity to upgrade a position or positions on the field, I'm not avoiding signing TJ Lang to spend money on guys that might not want to come here, guys that might not really fit our scheme. And I love Dante Hightower too, but, he's been a 3-4 linebacker, primarily in the inside. We run a 4-3, so you know what I mean? And then the amount of money that top-tier defensive linemen are getting is pretty big. Perhaps Quinn is thinking, I address those needs in the draft where it's a controlled amount of money. I can splurge a little bit on other areas. That's why I was kind of more so leaning towards splurging on linebacker, splurging on maybe cornerback, because defensive line is just getting out of hand with these defensive ends, especially are getting. Now, most of them got franchised, but they get a lot of money. So I'm a little worried about the defense as well, guys. But you have to look at what this offensive line can bring now. And so left to right, you've got Taylor Decker, Graham Glasgow, Travis Swanson, TJ Lang, and Ricky Wagner. That's impressive. That's very impressive. And you add Darren Fells to the mix, who was, and we'll talk about him a little bit more later, was considered the third blessed. I guess you call him blessed as well. Third best blocking tight end. You add the return of Amir Abdullah. It's very promising, okay? Very promising. I love the signings. It showed guts. Ricky Wagner was a target of Minnesota, all right? TJ Lang, a target of Green Bay. So it's like a cherry on top when you can not only get a guy you want, but you're taking him from other teams that had interest in him. Now with TJ Lang, it got funny on Twitter because guys were really upset, man. They would post this and that. One guy used a very derogatory. He changed his name to this extremely derogatory term, referring to TJ Lang. Guys in Seattle calling him a this and a that. There's guys, Green Bay fans, calling him a traitor, a Trader, traitor, not a traitor. Traitor, calling him a traitor. You know what they meant to say. And so I had a little fun on Twitter. I did. I went ahead and had fun with it. So I'm looking on Twitter right now, and I went ahead and posted something on Detroit Lions thing because, after they announced the signing of TJ Lang, a lot of Seahawks fans decided to get on there and have a little fun. Be sarcastic, be rude. So, one thing I posted was, follow me, Jerry Mallory, NFL. I said the 12th man all day since noon. That Salt Bay? I'm talking about that meme where the guy's, he's cooking steak and he's pouring that salt. So I posted that meme saying the 12th man all day since around noon. So this one guy, he comes on and he says, what did he say? Oh, are we pouring the salt? We are the 12. So he clearly is a Seattle fan. Are we pouring the salt? Well, my response is, well, you could be the steak or the guy. All right. One possesses and is known for salt. The other is getting salt poured on it. You choose. So we go back and forth a little bit. And one of my favorite quotes, I told him, and to me, when you're trolling someone, a key element is using capital letters and, exclamation points. I know I'm talking like a fourth grader, but it's fun. I told him, I said, TJ Lang in all caps, he left Seattle quicker than KD and the Sonics. Now Thunder, LOL. I know that's low. His response, well, I'd rather not have an NBA team than say that the Pistons were my home team. I said, yeah, sure you would, with a little sarcasm. And so I had a little fun on Twitter, going back and forth with a few guys, and it was pretty cool. Now, one of the turnarounds and one of the fallouts from this signing of TJ Lang is Laken Tomlinson might now be available. I don't want to credit the wrong guy from Private Detroit. I believe it was Kenley Plate. If I'm wrong, I apologize. Perhaps Mike Payton made a good point about Laken and why he may have some trade value for a few reasons. First off is because he is young. The first 2 years were a little rough, but he was a first rounder for a reason. He was a guy that supposedly the New England Patriots had interest in. They weren't going to let him leave into the second round. They had a lower pick in the first round. Number two, some person may feel as though he has played out of position at left guard. That's what I talked about briefly. Right guard was his main position. Number three, if you look at the money these guys are getting, you'll have him under contract for 3 more years at a reasonable rate. 2.5, 3, $4 million maybe. And so you have a guy under control that you hope to can, start and use for quite some time. So what would Laken Tomlinson get on the open market? I think if you're just trading him straight up, probably about a 4th rounder. I know it's sad. You draft him in the 1st round and you get a 4th rounder. But hey, it is what it is. Now, if someone want to get crazy and offer a 3rd rounder, I'd jump for joy. I don't think it would happen. Maybe one of those late compensatory picks. Who knows? Now, it also gets interesting with Laken. You can probably package him with a pick that you have and then move up in the draft. For instance, and I'm just, I've been on Twitter so much. Last 72 or more hours, you hear things, you kind of agree with it. So I'm not trying to take anyone's thunder, but someone made a good point. Like in that 2nd round, that may have been Kenley Plate. Kent, you take that 2nd round pick that we have, 2nd round, pick 21, 22, you package it with Laken, you can move up in the 2nd round. Maybe you can move up 10 spots. And now you're looking at some linebackers. You're looking at Gerard Davis. Maybe one of those cornerbacks you like. Maybe Caleb Brantley falls. See, I at first said, this is good depth with Joe Dahl and Laken Tomlinson as your backup guards. But the more I think about it, it makes sense. Laken Tomlinson may very well be on the trade block, so I'm all for it. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, give a little props to DeAndre Levy. He's gone, and we certainly are going to miss him. We have some other free agent signings. The 2 big ones was Rick Wagner and TJ Lang. But, there were some other guys that we want to give props to. And so we'll talk about that. We'll do a fan speak. Usually we do every week. I'll do one live on the air, see who's available, see who we draft. Now that the guard and tackle situation is there, you don't have to worry about me talking about Garrett Bowles or Ryan Ramczyk or Forrest Lamp or Cam Robinson. We can address other needs because we do have some needs on defense. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. So stay tuned as we'll return right here on the Hindsight 20 podcast. Jerry Mallory here for the Hindsight 20 podcast. If you want your ad to be placed on our show, guess what? You can do it. Send us an email, hindsight20podcast@gmail.com. Let's make it happen. You're probably thinking, what in the world is Jerry playing? We're back on the Hindsight 20. You get 500 imaginary dollars if you can guess who this is, all right? Because it's a theme. It's a parallel in light of some of the recent free agent signings. Listen, a quick listen. You're going to have to be at least 27 or older to guess who this is. Probably a little bit older. Doesn't really fit, the football theme. Maybe once the chorus hits, you'll have a better grasp of who it is, and I'll give you the parallel. I actually, as a young child, enjoyed this song quite a bit. Don't judge me. So check out the chorus. Let's see if it brings home any memories. All right, you probably still don't know who it is. This song, known as Constant Craving, it was, came out in like the 90s or so. But the singer was K.D. Lang, all right? 2 syllables and the last name Lang. This was the most popular 2-syllable first name, Lang last name person in the 90s. Well, lo and behold, the newest right guard of the Detroit Lions. That's the new hotness. That's the new most popular and respected, at least especially around here. 2-syllable, then Lang last name person. All right, TJ Lang, Katie Lang. It's a stupid connection, but I decided to dedicate that song to you, Mr. TJ Lang. That was a little Katie Lang with Constant Craving. Probably, of all the songs I've played, and I don't know, you might say, oh, what song is he going to play this week? You probably never would have guessed that Constant Craving. But hey, TJ Lang is a Lion, So we played a little Katie Lang. So let's talk about some of the other signings. We know that the two big ones were just that big. They're huge. We needed it, and we're happy to have them. But there's some other guys that come into the fore as well. You've got Paul Warlow. This is a linebacker from the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Paul Warlow is a pretty good signing. He was a starter for the Falcons for quite some time. He lost his job this past year. They went younger. They went faster. But Paul Warlow still has a little bit left in the tank. Now, you're wondering, what is he going to do? Is he just a special teams guy now? Will he start? It's a 1-year deal. You hope that it's a special teams guy. But at this point, he's 26 years old. He's had some production at the NFL level, and we don't have any linebackers, all right? Just cut Levy. And briefly, it's an unfortunate end to Levy's ride here in Detroit because so promising. First few years were a little slow. They re-sign him to a contract. He picks things up. Then he gets another contract. One of the picks that Matt Millen got right, to be honest. He was a middle linebacker for a while. Then they moved him to the outside, and things look good. But those knees, man, they can derail you. I can relate. I've got 3 torn ACLs. I know the effect that they can take on you, how they can take you out of, your athleticism. You lose things. And so 5 games in the last 2 years, not a lot of production, a big amount of money. He had to go. As a person, he seems like a legit dude, man. A lot of things that he does in the area, the whole donation for the rape kits, very interesting guy. His thoughts on, CTE and the NFL, very adventurous. He's always going places, known for the beard. We're going to miss the guy. But back to Paul Warlow, you look at our linebacker situation, well, he will be the starter right now. And a lot of guys aren't happy about that. I'm not jumping for joy myself. He has had some years in which, he eclipsed the 100 tackle mark. All right. He had 127 tackles in 12 games in his rookie year. Over the next 2 years after that, he ended up getting over 100 both years. So, that's a good thing. Now, he may be better suited as a middle linebacker. And talking to him, the Detroit Lions, their little press release, that's what he said. He said he wanted to play middle linebacker or was it Will or Sam? I forget. If he has to start, I think he would be best suited as a middle linebacker. Someone that, because he doesn't have a ton of speed, so, having to chase down tight ends and playing, running backs, covering them in coverage may be an issue. But in the middle, if he's got the smarts, and I still think he has something left in the tank. So, I'm fine with the signing. If there are other things that happen and when he's a backup, that's even better. But right now, I'd probably pencil him in. It's nasty, man. Right now, I would probably say he's our middle linebacker. You have Tahir as the outside, and I don't know. After that, man, it's a little bleak, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Akeem Spence signs a 3-year deal with the Lions, $10.5 million. He is from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now he's known as more of a zero tech, a guy that's stout against the run. He does like our scheme, our attacking scheme. He said that was a big reason why he came here. So maybe he wants to show some of his pass rushing skills. But this signing to me says Haloti Ngata should be expendable because you got your main zero tech. You got your main guy that's going to take 2 blockers up and plug the hole and compromise the pocket and stop the run in A'Shawn Robinson. And Akeem Spence, to me, is A'Shawn's backup. I don't want to go into the season with Robinson and Ngata as my starters again. Now, we don't have a 3-tech defensive tackle traditionally. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But, you cut Ngata, you let this guy be your backup. We did re-sign Kyrie Thornton. And Kerry Hyder, if I could just talk about our 3-tech defensive tackle dilemma, I think he may be someone that plays more defensive tackle. Remember, we originally brought him in. That's where he played. Now, he did some defensive end work. He got a lot of sacks. He was a surprise player, most improved player on our team this past year. But once Ziggy Ansah came back, we started to see Kerry Hyder line up next to Ziggy as a pass-rushing defensive tackle. We may see that a lot more. Could Kerry Hyder be our starter opening day? I don't know. It all depends what we do at the 3-tech position. I'm really hoping that we address that. We need more pass rushing interiorly. Probably not a word, but you get my point. So Akeem Spence, I'm hoping, again, he's a backup. The next guy we want to talk about is Cornelius Washington. Signed a 2-year, $6 million deal. He's ex of the Chicago Bears. Physically, This guy is just super impressive, man. You look at his frame, you look at the athleticism, what he did in college at Georgia. The combine numbers is impressive. So is he an under the radar guy? I don't think you pencil him in as your starter at defensive end, but he has a chance to do just that, though. I really feel as though he has a chance to surprise some people, because if he could put it all together, maybe a change of scenery and the right scheme, he's only 27 years old, big guy, 6'4", probably about 285, physically imposing, strong, powerful, quick, but he's been a rotational guy. So if we're looking at our lineup right now, I guess he'd be the starter. I don't know. You got Devin Taylor still available on free agency. Maybe Kerry Hyder is your other defensive end. Cornelius Washington right now would be the starter. I would love if he's a primary backup, a guy that can sub in and out. And, a lot depends on what happens in the draft, so we'll have to wait and see. DJ Hayden, cornerback, formerly of the Raiders, signs a one-year deal, $5.5 million. So we all know the deal with DJ Hayden. He had the ugly injury. People thought he possibly would die, much less ever play football again, but he didn't. He recovered. He was a first-round pick. He was considered the best cornerback in that draft. That was a 2013 draft. Mr. Darius Slay. I know if you're doing redrafts, he would be the first guy picked. Perhaps an Oakland Raider or picked even sooner. And so DJ Hayden has been disappointing since he's been in the league. Let's be honest. He's been injury-prone. Not so much the scare that he had, but just different injuries on the field. And when he has played, he's been so-so. I got a good buddy, former coworker that is a diehard Oakland Raiders fan. He's as diehard a Raiders guy as all of us are Lions guys. And I would ask him about different players, and DJ Hayden would come up because he watches every game. He's got the Sunday ticket. He has not missed a Raiders game in 30 years. All right. And his thing is like, man, DJ Hayden's kind of rough, dude. Even when he's out there, he looks slow and always bothered by an injury, and he's getting burnt and beat. It's a risky move. It's a 1 year show me deal. It's one of those things where, athletically, he's probably the next gifted guy next to Slay. He's almost 6 feet, about 190 pounds. The measurables are great, man. I mean, he really looked solid in college. He's 5'11", 203 pounds. He's fast. He's athletic. So it's like, well, what happened? Is he more suited for the slot? He did play a little bit more in the slot this year, and he looked pretty good. He gave up like 50% of his passes only, which is decent. And so this is an interesting signing. Let's talk about the cornerback position after Darius Slay briefly. Nevin Lawson, I felt, had a decent year. And our lack of pass rush really exposed some of our cornerbacks. The guys not known as Darius Slay, because we just didn't get enough pressure. So Lawson is there. He's probably still your number 2 corner. DJ Hayden may challenge him for that. All right. DJ Hayden may also challenge Quandre Diggs, who had a really bad year. Good first year, bad second year. See, Hayden has played inside and outside, so he's kind of there. Right now, I'd say he's a backup. He could end up starting next to Slay. He could end up starting in the nickel. We know our nickel cornerback plays a good number of snaps. And so I like the signing from that standpoint. He's flexible, and he'll challenge. Because I don't think Lawson is so good to where he's your no doubt number 2 coming in. Quandre Diggs, a good year, a bad year. He's not your no doubt primary slot guy coming in. So Hayden, who can do a little bit of both, comes in, and he may challenge both of these guys. He may end up usurping one of them. It's a 1 year deal, and everything's there for him to turn it around. Coach Oden is a very fine cornerbacks coach. And we know Terrell Lawson, what he's done, love him or hate him, it's been a bad defense that he's made, from a talent standpoint, that he's made be serviceable. And so it's an interesting match there. Again, a 1 year, $5.5 million. Darren Fells, 1 year, 1.5. We talked about him earlier, so we're not going to go too much into what he does. He's a blocking tight end, all right, 6'7", like 280 pounds, former basketball player. I mean, he can catch a little bit, but the whole thing is, he is the third-rated blocker of tight ends in the league last year, only behind Gary Barnidge from Cleveland and Lance Kendricks, who is now a Packer, ex of the Los Angeles Rams. And so we needed that aspect. We haven't had it since Brandon Pettigrew. That helps you run. Like I say, he's more of a pass-blocking guy, but he's very good at blocking, in the run as well. Keyshawn Martin signed. We remember this guy from Michigan State, speedy receiver. He's probably replacing Andre Roberts as your key return guy at the moment. Now, of all the signings, he might be the one that I say, he might not make it once the season, to the season. You sign guys, they don't always make it. There's cuts, there's things to consider. If I had to pick a guy that would not make it, it would be him, but we'll see. He played for the Texans. I think he had a cup of coffee there with the New England Patriots. So it'll be interesting to see just how things turn out for him. At this point, he would probably be your return guy. He's probably replacing Andre Roberts. So we'll have to wait and see what actually happens of the speedy wide receiver ex of the Michigan State Spartans. So those are your signings. That's pretty much the guys that we've brought in. I like it. How much money we have left, we don't really know. There's been some speculation. Maybe we got I've heard anywhere from only $5 million left to as high as $17 million. So what could we do? What are some issues or some areas that we could address? Well, linebacker. Okay. I'll just throw a few names out there. Zach Brown's probably the guy I want the most right now. He drew some interest from the Lions last year. He chose to go with the Bills instead. Had a breakout year, like 130 tackles, like 4 sacks, forced fumbles, his whole deal. He's a fast guy. I loved him out of college. Correct me if I'm wrong. He played at North Carolina. It's a great guy to have as an outside linebacker. I haven't heard if there's any interest between him and the Lions. And overall, he's probably our main target. You've got Kevin Minter, who his run defense is a little so-so, but he's been a middle linebacker. Had a pretty good year for the Arizona Cardinals. Gerald Hodges still out there. Dante Hightower, I just don't think it's going to happen, and I'm fine with that more and more I think about it. Defensive tackle, there's still some guys, Jonathan Hankins, Dontari Poe. Only thing is those guys are zero techs more so. There isn't really a 3-tech pass rushing defensive tackle out there, but, they may go with that. Let's just be super stout against the run up the middle, and so we can still sign those 2 guys potentially. At defensive end, Chris Long still available as well as Connor Byron. I'm intrigued by both of them. Chris Long drew interest from the Lions, almost chose us last year. He feels as though he still has some left in the tank. He had a decent year with the Patriots. He feels like in an attacking scheme, he said he can do even more of this upcoming year. So I'd be happy to bring him in. He could come right in and be your starter for a year or two as a veteran. Connor Byron, a local guy, Southfield, Michigan. He's played linebacker, more so a 3-4 linebacker, though. So coming in here, he would probably be a defensive end. He's just a few years removed from a 14.5 sack season. And so I would love to potentially bring him in. So just throwing out a few names in free agency. We're still worried about our defense. We still got a little bit of money left, and there's still some names that are left to be had. So, and don't forget, too, trade market is an option. We'll give Martin Mayhew credit. He brought in some really good starters from a trading standpoint here. I think of Chris Houston. I think of Corey Williams, defensive tackle. You can also address your needs with trades. And then remember, too, guys, the June 1st cuts have yet to happen. So there's a potential for us to bring in some guys. They will be cut June 1st, and we can, swoop right in and bring in a player or two. So, and of course, the draft, which we're going to talk about, there's a long way to go, all right? We're only through the first, just initial stages of team rebuilding. Free agency just hit. Don't panic. I know we looked at offense a little bit more. Our 2 big signings on the offensive line. Hey, man, you build through the trenches. All right? Offensive and defensive line. I'm hardly ever upset when you address those needs, when you get top-tier players on either one of those spots. So just relax. Defense will come a little bit later. So the draft does now change. We talked about the guys that we don't have to really worry about in the first couple of rounds. I don't think you look at a tackle or a guard now. It just would not make sense. So let's do a fan speak, all right? I just logged on to my fan speak. I'm a Detroit Lions. We all know we do this each and every week, and I'm playing the role as GM. If I were GM and these are the players left, this is what I'll do. So the draft has started. You got Myles Garrett off the board, of course. Mitch Trubisky, Solomon Thomas, this is our top 5. Malik Hooker, Corey Davis. That's your top 5, all right? Myles Garrett, Mitch, Solomon, Malik, Corey. No big surprises. I'm scrolling down. Reuben Foster did not fall. He ended up going to the San Diego Chargers. Fournette off the board. Mike Williams, Jonathan Allen, Barnett, David Njoku is gone. Thank you. We don't have to worry about drafting him. Marlon Humphrey, Forrest Lamp, Tease Tabor, Christian McCaffrey, Cam Robinson. So now it's time for us to pick. Let's see who's available. Who are some of the guys that I'm deciding between? We've got O.J. Howard, Deshaun Watson, Taco Charlton, Dalvin Cook, John Ross, Hassan Reddick, Tack McKinley, Zach Cunningham, Malik McDowell. These are some intriguing names. Now, O.J. Howard is a special player. And if it were not for this one guy being here, O.J. Howard would be my pick. We're going with Hassan Reddick. Bam. He's our newest Detroit Lion. I don't think he's going to be there at 21, to be honest. His combine was special. He's shown that the transition to linebacker will work for him. And so I really don't think he'll be there, to be honest. But if he is, I'd be jumping for joy. Unfortunately, a guy like Sidney Jones, a guy you would potentially look at, the Achilles, is going to probably put him in the second or third round. Unfortunately, they're going to be a player or two that for that reason is going to fall, and they're going to be out the picture. And so, the more guys that kind of move out of that top 20 means a guy like Hassan Reddick being picked in the top 20 may more and more likely, which means the Lions might not get a chance to grab him. But the flip side is, as we know, there are guys that move up, like Obi Afulama, you know what I'm talking about, that athletic safety from UConn. A few other guys' stock may rise. I've been seeing Akamara, am I saying that right? The running back from Tennessee. His name is being brought up now. So there's a lot of fluctuation. And I hope Hassan Reddick is there. Will he be? We just don't know. Guys, it's been fun. TJ Lang, welcome to Detroit. Welcome back. We played a little Katie Lang for you as a tribute. Ricky Wagner, that offensive line, it's a very Caucasian offensive line. It's a very skilled offensive line. Next week, there'll be some more signings. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about potentially how good could this offensive line be. We'll compare some stats and some numbers, and we'll go from there. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. As always, I'm here. As always, I'm on Twitter, Jerry Mallory NFL. And you can find me at PriorDetroit.com. So until next Monday, thanks once again for listening to the Hindsight 20 podcast.